Tina Michelle Fontaine was born on January 1, 1999 to Valentina Duck and Eugene Fontaine. Eugene Fontaine's father was a residential school survivor, and as a child Eugene was exposed to alcoholism and violence. Eugene left his Sagkeeng First Nation home when he was 12 years old to move to Winnipeg, where he had to fend for himself on the streets. While he was in Winnipeg, he developed an alcohol addiction. Valentina Duck was raised on Bloodvein First Nation. Starting from when Valentina was 6 years old, she was removed from and returned into her mother's custody multiple times by Manitoba Child and Family Services. The reason for her removal was due to severe traumas she had experienced. When she was 10 years old, she was permanently removed from her family's custody and moved around throughout the foster care system. Valentina was sexually exploited by adults and began to use drugs and alcohol during this time. Manitoba's Child and Family Services were aware this was going on but did nothing to protect her. Valentina Duck was a 12-year-old child in foster care when she met and began a relationship with a then 23-year-old Eugene Fontaine. Child and Family Services records showed that they knew their relationship was sexual and knew that Fontaine's father had a past that involved violence and severe addictions. Documents noted that Valentina would frequently run away from her foster placements to stay with Eugene. In 1994, Duck described to her caseworker feeling depressed, suicidal, isolated, alone, and unloved. In 1995, 14-year-old Valentina was pregnant with Eugene's baby. This baby would be their first child they had together. In the spring of 1996, 14-year-old Valentina gave birth to her son, Charles Fontaine. Charles was immediately and permanently removed from Valentina and was placed into Child and Family Services custody right after he was born. Tina was the second child born to Valentina and Eugene. Tina's sister Sarah was born in June 2000. When Tina was a year old, she was removed from her family's custody for the first time by CFS. She was removed again when she was 2 years old. She was put back into her father's custody. In 2004, when Tina was 5 years old, and Sarah was 4, their father placed them with her great-aunt and uncle through a private guardianship agreement. Tina lived with her great-aunt and uncle for nearly 10 years in Powerview Pine Falls, Manitoba. In 2011, Tina's father Eugene was beaten to death. The loss of her father devastated Tina, and therefore with this loss, she began to drift away from the girl she once was. Even though she was eligible for grief counseling, she did not receive it following her father's death as she lived in Powerview Pine Falls and the grief counseling services were located in Winnipeg. On the day of her father's funeral, her mother Valentina Duck contacted her and Sarah for the first time since 2004. Tina and Valentina communicated on the phone for about 2 weeks. This communication suddenly dropped one day when Tina tried to call Valentina, but Valentina's phone was disconnected. This was another indicator of loss in Tina's life by her mother. Tina was struggling in the time period from when her father passed away until she passed away. She was constantly absent from school, getting suspended from school, got into verbal and physical confrontations when at school, some of which resulted in police being called, using marijuana, getting treatment for self-harm, and being reported missing 3 times. During this dark period in her life, her family asked for help from CFS multiple times, but CFS did nothing to help them or protect Tina. Multiple disappearances. In early 2014, 15-year-old Tina went to go visit her mom in Winnipeg. At this time, Valentina lost custody of all 7 of her children. She had 4 other children after Sarah was born, as she was struggling with alcoholism and was involved in sex work. On July 17 and 18, Tina was in CFS care after her mother kicked her out of the house while Tina was visiting. Tina was placed in a downtown hotel. From July 23 to July 29, Tina stayed at a temporary youth shelter called Indigenous. Her bed was given away to another youth after Tina missed her curfew for the second time. On July 31, Tina was reported missing to Winnipeg Police Service, WPS. Her aunt, Lana, said that Tina stayed with her from August 1 to August 3, August long weekend. On August 5, Tina called her CFS worker and was picked up by members of CFS and WPS. Although it is unknown what happened to her between August 5 and August 8, she was still a missing youth in need of protection and care. August 8, 2014, the last time Tina is seen. In the early morning hours of August 8, 2014, she went to a youth shelter but left shortly afterwards. At 5:15 a.m. that morning, she was found by police officers in the truck of a drunk driver. The police officers took the driver into custody, but not Tina, even though she was a missing youth. The two officers were suspended because of this action and left the police force. At 10 a.m. that day, she was found passed out in an alleyway near the University of Winnipeg. She was taken into Health Sciences Center for treatment. When she was at the hospital, Tina informed her CFS worker that she was hanging out with a 62-year-old man named Raymond Cormier. After being released from the hospital, Tina was placed at a downtown hotel placement, which she left soon afterwards. An 18-year-old girl named Katrina was hanging out with Tina hours before she disappeared. Katrina met Tina between 10 and 11 p.m. on August 7. They went to eat at the McDonald Youth Services Emergency Shelter at 2:30 a.m. Katrina believed Tina was drunk and requested that the shelter staff keep her overnight. Tina refused to stay and refused to give the staff her name. Katrina says that after seeing Tina get into the truck and the encounter with police, she lost contact with Tina until 8 p.m. on August 7 after Tina left the hotel she was staying at. At 3 a.m. on August 8, Katrina and Tina were approached on Ellis Avenue by a man who offered Tina money to perform a sex act. Tina said yes to the man and left with him. Katrina followed the two but lost sight of them in the dark. Tina was reported missing again on August 9. Death, trial and aftermath. On August 17, a body was found in Winnipeg's Red River. This body was wrapped in plastic, a duvet cover, and weighed down with rocks. The next day, police identified and confirmed that the body is of Tina Fontaine. Police believe she died on or around August 10, however they were not able to confirm how she died. Raymond Joseph Cormier was charged with second-degree murder in December 2015. He pleaded not guilty. The trial began on January 29, 2018. A witness testified that the last time he saw Tina, she argued with Raymond because he had sold her bicycle frame for drugs. Raymond's lawyers argued that since how Tina died is unknown, nobody knows if or how she was murdered and that Raymond should be acquitted on that argument. On February 22, 2018, Raymond was found not guilty and on March 13, the Crown prosecutors announced they will not appeal the case. Tina was buried on Sag King First Nation next to her father. A memorial was placed at the site on the first anniversary of the discovery of her body at the Red River. The Canadian Human Rights Commission requested an inquiry into the number of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, MIG, in Canada. In December 2016, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced that this inquiry will take place. In response to Tina's death, a volunteer group called Drag the Red was formed. They drag portions of the Red River to find bodies or evidence in missing persons or homicide cases. A safety and crime prevention group called the Bear Clan Patrol was created to help prevent crime in Winnipeg's North End. Tina was failed by the people that were supposed to protect her. Her story is not any different, as there were many missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls before her such as Vanessa Breuer, Cheris Howell, Hilary Wilson, Amber Gaboche and many more throughout Canada. Writing about Tina is important to me because this happened where I currently live and I remember seeing news coverage of her death and trial. It is sad that in 2024, we as a society are finally starting to pay attention to this epidemic, when we should have been paying attention all along.